Yeah, it was interesting. I saw someone posted in the group, like maybe an hour ago, about how it's difficult to set boundaries. And she was talking more about work-life balance, but I think it ties in. It's easy if you are an independent contractor. It's easy if you're on your own, if you don't have someone to answer to. But when you're in an office and you're working for someone else, it can be really hard to set boundaries and have people respect them. Because I remember when I told my boss, like, hey, I'm going to be going to lunch for an hour, which is allowed. I mean, it's in my contract. I was allowed to do it. But everyone kind of looked at me like, really? You're going to do that? Like, no one does that. Everyone works through lunch.
Yeah.
So I think it can be tricky for people to set those boundaries if they're working for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
I had a similar experience when I was at the job where I was going on site every day. I think it was one day it just hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, I never take a lunch. Like, I'm always sitting at my computer. And it was awful, like so unrelaxing. And I was just working the entire day straight. That's so, like, first of all, that's lame. Second of all, like, when I recognized that, I was like, okay, I need to take a half an hour at least and just sit, like, be outside. Even if I eat at my desk, like, go take a half an hour and, like, sit and not be, like, go take a walk, go call somebody. Because why not? Yeah, it's in your contract. Like, you're...
Yeah, I remember, like, there were days when I would even eat lunch at my desk, and I would kind of, I'd be on the computer, I'd be doing stuff. People would come in and out of my office. And I was like, wait a second, I didn't take my lunch. Yes, I ate my lunch. I didn't take my lunch. So I'm going to go to Starbucks for a half an hour, sit there, either call someone or just do personal, things that I don't get to catch up on during the workday usually, and just take that time. Even if it wasn't necessarily a real lunch, like I wasn't eating lunch, but just taking time.
Yeah.
You were saying to go take a walk, to disconnect, because like you said, it's lame. Like, why do that? Like, I don't want to spend my whole day in front of a computer.
I know.
There's better things to do.
I used to, when I was getting in the habit, I still did not, it was difficult because there was really nowhere to, like, sit. I mean, I guess I could have gone to a restaurant, but I usually would eat my lunch at my desk, and then I would go take a half an hour because I was in the city. So I would go and, like, shop or, like, go browse, like, TJ Maxx or, like, something like that. And it was like, it was such a nice, like, okay, like, I'm not anywhere having to do with work at all. Like, I think I didn't even get service down in there. So it was like, it was
the TJ Maxx basement.
But it was like, just like doing something for me, or like, I had a friend who worked from home, so I'd always, like, chat with her during my lunch break. It was just nice to do something that had nothing to do with the job. No one can bother you. No one can, hey, I have a problem. Like, can wait.
I remember.
Can wait a half an hour.
Yeah, no, I remember it was, like, pretty much a joke at my old office where it was like, Becca's eating her lunch, don't bother her. Because I got to a point where I would get, like, if I had to stay in the office for maybe it was, like, pouring rain outside, I didn't want to leave. And I was like, but I need this time. Like, it got to a point where I was just so dependent on having that time to disconnect, because now I realize, pretty unhappy the rest of the day. That I would shut my door and I would say, okay, I'm having my lunch. Like, please don't bother me. I just need my time.
Yeah.
And it was like a joke. Honestly, it was like, okay, Becca needs her, like, don't bother her during lunchtime. She'll get, like, angry about it. Because I was in, like, this heightened state of stress that if I didn't have that time, then it was all downhill.
Yeah.
Which I think leads into, I don't know if we can talk a little bit about what that girl mentioned in the Facebook group about how do you have that conversation with your supervisor, because you don't want to be a pain. You don't want to be that person that's like, well, in my contract, it says that I'm entitled to this, even though you are, of how to start that conversation. And I think part of it is explaining to your supervisor that you're putting in 100% the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. And you really need this time to be able to continue to do that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have any other advice for someone that wants to talk to their supervisor about it.
Yeah, I think being really honest and just, kind of like what you said, I'm giving 100%. And I think it's okay to say I'm feeling a little bit like I'm reaching my wear out point. And I really need that half an hour or that hour to recharge and get right back in and do what I need to do. You can even offer, again, it should be in your contracts that you have, this lunch break, but, if you're at a center or if you're somewhere where somebody needs to reach somebody, a supervisor or somebody, or you need to be reached, put someone else in charge for that half an hour. So during the time from 12:30 to 1:30, if I'm not available, please contact Becca. She'll be in room whatever if you need someone to answer a question quickly. That way, you know, people are able to get in touch with somebody if they need it, but you're also able to have your time totally interruption free. You don't have to worry if someone's going to come and get you. And you can offer to do the same thing for somebody else at their lunchtime too. But I think offering a solution to what might be a potential issue is important, and you're more likely to get that time totally to yourself than you would if you were just saying, although it's really not that ridiculous to ask for a lunch.
I know that, but it's really, and that's the thing, like when we talk about balance and the types of supervisors that some of us have, and I totally feel what this woman is talking about, where I think some supervisors get defensive and it's like, well, I don't take a break. Why do you need a break?
Yeah.
And so I love the idea of what you said, going to them with a solution of, okay, this is why you might not want me to take a break. Mm-hmm. And this is what I've done to solve that issue. Mm-hmm. And who knows, the supervisor might still get defensive and might still get a little bit mean about it. But maybe you'll shed some light on something they need to do. And maybe they'll start taking their own lunch.
Yeah. And that's a good point too. Some people might not need a break or think they need a break, but I think it's normal and definitely okay to need a break. I need a break. You need a break. Like, we all need breaks. So it's okay to say, I need one. I need a break. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to, I need a break during the day.
Yeah. We teach our kids to say it all the time. We should be able to say it.
I need a break. You have a little card, break. Yeah. So you recently, in the realm of boundaries, you recently made a change in your company.
I made a huge change. I have 2 cell phones now. I have a work cell phone and I have a personal cell phone. And we just started this on Friday. Mm-hmm. My business partner and I went to T-Mobile. We had gotten to a point where both of us love what we do. And so we would respond to the occasional email on a Saturday or a phone call at 9 p.m. or 7 a.m. And it's hard for us to shut off because when it's your own business, you want to make sure that you're there for people all the time. Mm-hmm. And so for our own sanity, we decided, you know what, let's just get a business phone and keep our personal phones and set those boundaries with the business phone so that people knew, I turn my phone off at 7 p.m. If it's an emergency, you still have my backup phone number. You can still reach me there. But really setting that boundary of, there are times when I'm not going to be available unless it is an emergency. So if it's something small, teaching people it can wait. And already it's been so nice. I mean, yesterday at 7 p.m., I made a big production actually in front of my husband of turning off my phone. I was like, look, I can turn off my business phone and now I can actually spend time with you. And I did. And it wasn't, what I had realized is when I was at home, I was still 25, 30% at work. My brain was still working. I was maybe just checking in to see if there were any emails, maybe, answering a quick text, but it was distracting. And I'm sure for him, it was upsetting. I mean, you don't want the person you're talking to only be 75% present. And so being able to turn that off was a huge step for me. So that was big. I'll keep you posted on how it goes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it was. And it was I was wondering how staff was going to respond if they were going to say, well, this is ridiculous. We don't get business phones. How come you get a business phone? Every single person that we told we were doing it to said, that's great. We're so happy that you guys are doing that. You guys work all the time. And so they were completely understanding.
I think too, that probably sets a precedent for them, and also, sets a really good model for them as future BCBAs or whatever their roles are. Like my boss turns her phone off during these hours. I should do that too. And you're kind of training these people to set similar boundaries in their own work lives as they progress through your company or move on to other positions in the future. So that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's something that I wish had been a part of my supervision, is this kind of setting boundaries. And we talk a lot about setting boundaries with parents and ethical boundaries, but we don't really talk about setting those personal boundaries when we're going through our coursework or when we're studying for the exam. And I think it is part of being a good clinician, because if you don't have those boundaries, you're going to burn out. It's your work, like we always talk about, is going to just infiltrate your personal life. You're going to end up unhappy. You're going to resent your work, and you're ultimately not going to want to be in the field. So yeah, I think that, like you said, as supervisors, it's important for us to model the kind of boundaries that we want our supervisees to have now and when they become BCBAs.
Yeah, that's great. Good for you.
Yeah. What about you? So what kinds of things, you're kind of balancing your whole life right now by taking a nice vacation, but you're working on that vacation. It's not 100% a vacation. And so how are you setting those boundaries, making sure you have time to enjoy LA and go to the beach and go on vacations, but also making sure, you're earning a paycheck?
Yeah. I think the cool thing about being out here is, so I'm doing a lot of East Coast work. So everybody is up early. Well, you've started your day. So right now for me, it's 8:15 in the morning. So we've been getting up really early just because we started getting up really early when we got here, and we've kind of like kept it going, and we just get up early all the time. So I try to get like a lot of my work done in the morning hours that I need to do for various jobs I'm doing, and then I go work during the afternoon. I'm done around 3:00, and then I kind of call it for the afternoon. And if I have a couple things I need to do, I'll do it. Because there are a few days where I have a couple hours, so I'll do it. But otherwise, I sit outside. I go to the beach because I'm about 5 minutes from the beach. So I think I'm really taking this time to retrain myself to get back into a place that is an ideal balance for me. Because I don't have a standard 9-to-5 type job. But it's hard. It's hard when you have to set those boundaries for yourself for multiple people. It can be a challenge, but honestly, I feel like the people I'm working for right now are great with balance. So I think it's more of like turning it off for myself. Other people are pretty respectful of those boundaries, which is, honestly like a first for me. But I have to be like, okay, they don't need you. You don't need to be doing anything. Just remind myself of that. But I'm looking forward to getting back home and kind of taking the same mindset and just being really mindful about my own boundaries and setting them, and thinking about whether or not I'm crossing a line. 'Cause like you were saying, being able to just shut off and enjoy time with your family. Yesterday we went to the beach and I left my phone behind. It's like, I'm just going to go. I'm not even going to have it. It was like the best hour. And again, I don't really have anybody, no pressing needs right now, but it was you don't need it. I'm with you. So if I need anything, they'll call you.
That's so true. Yeah, no, it's so, I think a lot of it is we put it on ourselves. and we feel like, oh, it's so important that someone can reach me. But when you think about it, I mean, yes, we have very important jobs, but we're not emergency room doctors. You know, we're not neurosurgeons. There's literally nothing, at least in the field that we're in. I'm sure there are other behavior analysts that do have jobs that need immediate support, but for us, there's nothing that can't wait until tomorrow. And I think just reminding ourselves of that helps, because sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, this is a crisis and I have to be available, but you don't. It can wait. And I have to continuously remind myself of that, because like you said, if there's no one, if your boss isn't telling you you have to be available, then why do we put that pressure on ourselves to be available 24/7?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw something really interesting that I don't really do. I'm usually a type A person. So I like to kind of have my boundaries and have my rules and it's set. But one article that I was reading was about kind of flexibility with your boundaries. And instead of having this, 10 commandments of your boundaries, setting your boundaries each day. And so maybe there is a day when you have a work project that has to get done and there's a deadline. And maybe that day you're not taking your hour lunch, and that's okay for you. And you set that as your rules for that day. But the next day you're going to have a different set of boundaries, because maybe that next day everything's cruising. You just finished that project. And so your boundaries are a little bit different, and you're going to turn off your phone for more of the day than you typically do. And I liked that idea of flexibility, because I think as a field, sometimes we can be pretty rigid about our rules and regulations and everything. And so the idea of, yes, have your boundaries about you turn your phone off at 6 and you take an hour lunch, and, you don't sync your emails after a certain time, but also kind of leave room for that flexibility with those boundaries.
Kind of sounds like what I'm doing.
It does. You could have read the article.
Did I read that article? No, yeah, because I think that's a great point. Like, sometimes there are going to be things that come up and you got to get it done. So day-to-day boundaries make sense. But having your bigger picture mindset, kind of like leading those daily decisions, I think is important. So yeah, I think there are a lot of things that we can do to be proactive too, like getting the separate cell phones. That makes it a whole lot easier to make that decision, whether or not you're going to answer the call or not. If your phone's off, you get it the next day. I think that for people who don't have that option, there are things that you can do. Someone in the Facebook group was mentioning that she only checks her email once a day, which is like crazy to me. I would love to do that. I was listening to something the other day about how people, we check our emails like 100 times a day. That's not even an exaggeration.
That's awful. That's awful. I feel like it's higher than that too.
I think so. So, I've really been thinking about that post, and I don't know if I could go to one. I think she checked her work emails once a day. I think I could definitely limit it to like 3, like check it in the morning, afternoon, in the evening before you're done. And then that's it. Cause I think on my phone, it's like, it pushes through. I got to learn how to turn that off, because that's another thing. You get a notification and you check it. If you turn that off and you don't know you're getting it, you check it when you check it. So that's one thing you can do. I think also just, putting people on extinction after those hours. So between the hours of 9 to 5, I'll answer those messages or emails, but before 9, after 5, it'll wait until the next day.
Yeah. And I think that what you said is, putting them on extinction, but also like sharing your boundaries, letting people know so that they're not then overstepping and then you're getting angry at them and they don't know why, but saying, hey, if it's after 6 or after 7, if it's an emergency, you can always, call my personal number, but otherwise please don't call. And then that way, when you're not responding, they're not wondering what's going on. Why is my supervisor MIA? And you're not saying, why did this person call me 15 times after 7 p.m.?
Yeah. So I think, definitely setting the, whether it's with people, the people that you work with, or if it's families, really upfront. So looking forward to working with you. My business hours are from X to X. So if you need anything, contact me during those times. If not, I'll get back to you the next day, or contact me the next day, or whatever. So
I think that's perfectly understandable. I feel like people that work in an office setting and they just have an office number and you leave the office, you're not going to be available after those hours. So I understand that some BCBAs feel a little guilty about setting those boundaries, but just remember, in any other field, that would be the standard.
Yeah.
And so I think getting back to that is okay and nothing to feel guilty about.
Yeah, don't feel guilty about it, and own your time. We're here for just a short period of time, and to be able to get to spend time with your family, your husband, your dog, your friends. I was listening to another podcast and they talked about don't miss the moment. So if your husband or your friend or whoever, come sit with me, and you're just on your phone, put your phone down and take a second and don't miss that moment. Put it down for a minute and go enjoy a moment with your person or your people, because you don't want to look back at your life and think all you did was work, work, work. You want to look back and love the work that you did and love the time that you spent with your friends and family. So
yeah, I think that's perfect to wrap up kind of what we're talking about. I think that really that's the whole point. That's the whole point of balance, and that's the whole point of boundaries, is exactly what you just said. And I would love to hear from other people that are watching the 33 views that we had last time. If anyone has any other ideas about boundaries, I know that we've talked about kind of the main ones about limiting phone time and email time and all of that. But, what else do people do? I would love to hear about it. So.
Yeah, me too. So tell us your tricks and share your secrets so we can all get balanced together.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that we got to chat.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great day over there.
Bye. Enjoy LA.